Hello everybody, welcome to a new video, and today we're going to be doing part 2 of our spawns episode in our How to Play COD series. So in this episode I'm just going to run through some steps on how to spawn trap, what not to do, and how to maintain a spawn trap and keep your enemy in there so you can just grind out tons of kills. I'm mainly going to go through TDM and domination today because I think they give you a good basis for most game modes. There's some game modes where the spawns never flip, they always stay in the same place. So like demolition, they always stay and you always spawn in the same side of the map for the whole round. Safeguard, you always spawn in the same place for the whole round. And game modes like fracture and hardpoint, although the main primary spawns and stuff are still the same, they're a bit more sporadic, so they can flip a lot easier. You can spawn in some more random locations. Free for all, obviously. There's so many different spawn types on that, so that is, you can't really spawn trap on free for all. You can dictate the spawns and you can predict where the spawns are going to be and get kills off of that, but spawn trapping teams, it doesn't really work. And obviously search, I mean, once you kill them once they're dead anyway, so they're not going to respawn. So I'm just going to go through TDM and domination today and how to spawn trap on those game modes, because I think the tips you'll learn from there anyway will help you out in other game modes. So yeah, let's jump into it. Okay everybody, so I've just joined this this game here. This is just a game against bots. This is a private match, just to show you the basics and stuff. So the first thing you're going to want to do is, I'm spawning on this primary side, so I've spawned on A. And what you're going to do is, when it finally gets it, come on, there we go. And what you want to do is you want to immediately run to B. What I usually do is I just run straight to B, because there's always someone who will get your primary flag for you. Yeah, stay away from me. There we go. So yeah, what you're going to want to do is you want to maintain a primary flag and a primary flag, and a secondary flag B. That's what you're going to want to maintain. Now, one thing you should never do, and I see it all the time, is you should never 3-cap. Never capture all 3 of the flags, otherwise you're going to get people spawning all over the place and it's going to be impossible to maintain a spawn trap. You're better off capturing either A and B or C and B on any of the maps, and keeping them in one of the primary spawns, so either C or A. Now spawns on domination, they're a lot more cemented, so it's harder to flip the enemy when they captured. It's harder to flip the enemy when they're in like one of the primary spawns, basically, compared with like TDM or whatever. I advise only 3-capping when you want to win the game and you're already at a loss. Even if you're winning the game and you're doing really well, don't 3-cap, because you're better off keeping them in one of the spawns so they can't get out. Because if they get out of that spawn, they're more likely to capture more flags and gain more flags back. So what you want to do, you're better off keeping them in the spawn and keeping them there. B is definitely the most important flag. If you lose, say you have A and B, and they have C, and they take A, and you still have B, you're in a good position, because then all you have to do is capture one of the primary flags and you're back in it again. You can get them straight back into the spawn trap. Having B is more important than any other flag, for sure, on domination. Now, the ways that spawns get flipped on domination or any other game mode is by people running in. So if they were spawning back on this A side like they just were, they're going to spawn at C now because that's one of their primary flags, and I've killed them on here, so they're more likely to spawn over there. So there's always an imaginary line which you shouldn't cross, which will end up flipping the spawn. So if you're stood here scoping at that spawn back there, they are not going to spawn there because you're scoping in on it. So what you want to do is you want to keep maintaining your distance. You don't want to push it too much, otherwise they will flip. Now in domination it's a lot harder to flip them. And if I'm scoping here and they're not spawning there, they're going to spawn round on the corner there by A. They're not going to flip like they might do on TDM. But if I ran on my own here, and I ran around here and I gave the enemy no chance to flip, no chance to spawn here, they're going to flip over to the C side or flip over to B, and you're going to flip the spawn then and ruin the spawn trap. So you've always got to imagine there's like an imaginary line. Now the imaginary lines are always different on every other map. There's always a point you shouldn't cross. I think through this doorway, you should. If I wanted to keep them at A, I wouldn't go through this doorway, and I would never push any further than about here, I'd say, to this line here. And the same goes for the other side. If I wanted to keep them spawn trapped at C, I probably wouldn't push over to that side, and I probably wouldn't go any further than about here to keep them in the spawn trap. Now what really does my head in all the time is you'll see one enemy who'll think, oh, they're all spawning here, safe, I'll run through here and I'll get loads of kills. They'll run around here and there won't be anyone here because you flip the spawn to the other side, because like I said in the last episode, the enemy will always spawn where you're not. Now it's more cemented in domination, it's a tiny bit harder to flip, so if you think about it in TDM, it's going to be a lot easier to flip. Once you've got to even if you get to about here, they're probably going to start flipping, and you'll see your teammates start spawning there. So you've really got to be careful you don't want to flip the spawn if you're trying to maintain a spawn trap. So on domination it's obviously a lot easier, because all you need is a primary flag and the secondary flag. And you don't cross the imaginary lines with enough people. One person is sometimes can be okay, like they'll carry on spawning there. But if you have maybe 2 or 3 that will run round to that backside, you're screwed. So to keep them in the spawn trap, you just want to avoid going across the imaginary lines. Now I'm just going to jump into some real life examples now of showing you how to keep them in a spawn trap on domination, and how easy it is to sometimes flip the spawn to the other side. So as you can see, we've got B and we've got A at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run round to here. Now I'm going to do something you shouldn't do. This is something you should never do. See, they're still spawning here because the spawns are a lot more cemented on domination. But if I stay here long enough and my teammates don't spawn in the right place, they should flip. Or at least start spawning somewhere else. See that they're not spawning here anymore? This is where I want to keep them spawning, and they're not spawning here because I've decided to run round to the side and ruin it for our team. Obviously I would not do this in a real game, but they're going to start spawning in much weirder locations. And this is, see look, we're losing A now because I flipped the spawn. Another teammate ran in and it ended up flipping it. So this is something you definitely don't want to do, is you don't want to run into the side of the spawn and, you know, cause it to flip. So now they're going to take A, and you know, back to square. It's not the end of the world. Like, if I wanted them to be in the spawn trap at A, then obviously that's what I do. But if they're in a spawn trap which you want to keep them in, and you end up flipping it because you run round to the back to kill them, then, you know, that's a big issue. And I see it time and time again. My teammates, I'll have like the perfect spawn trap, and then I'll just see one dumbass teammate decide to run round to the back of the spawn and ruin it for everyone else. So please don't be that person, and learn from it and understand that spawn trapping is probably the best thing you can ever do. So yeah, don't ruin the spawn traps for everyone else. Now to get out of a spawn trap, like we are now, one tip would be to capture B if you can, or run all the way around the side of the map and try and capture one of the other primary flags just to mess them up a bit, because then you've got 2 spawns to attack them from B from. Now they will spawn at B, but it will make it harder for them to keep you away from it. So right now we've got them in the trap on the other side of the map. They seem to be locking spawns on that side of the map. So what if I wanted to flip it for whatever reason? I'd love to keep them in that spawn trap right now, but for the example of this, if I ran all the way around this side of the map here on this stupidly long flank, which basically achieves nothing. This is the other primary spawn on Cryogen. Now if a teammate spawns on me now, they should flip. See, there we go. Now our team see this guy just spawned here, so now they're going to continue to spawn there. Or flip back, that's fine. So yeah, that one teammate pushed a little bit too far there, and he ended up flipping it, so I had them in that spawn trap there. I think I pushed a bit too far. I didn't think they'd still spawning there, but sometimes you never know with spawns. They behave how they want. They're so weird. But yeah, I thought I would have flipped it pushing a bit that far, but it turns out that guy who ran a bit further ended up flipping it, so it was his fault and not mine. So there you go. And you know, if you keep them in the spawn trap like that, you get split quad feeds like that. So it's just such an important thing. If you're a clip hitter, definitely, if you want to start going for clips and start trying to hit those quad feeds, spawn trapping is something you really need to be on top of. And especially your timing with spawns as well. So you've got to be ready to anticipate a flip. So if I see like a teammate run around to the back there, I know they're going to flip. So I'm already running, anticipating the flip when my teammates are just like, you know, twiddling with their thumbs, not realising that the spawns are about to flip and they all get killed from behind. Anyway guys, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you learned something from this episode about spawn trapping. I hope you learned some new tips. If you knew some stuff already, hopefully you learned a bit more. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, sub, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.